Hello everybody, this is Mujix, also known as the Cynical Gamer, and yes, I know that's my old intro when my channel was still named the Cynical Romanian, but you know, I'm lazy so I didn't feel like making another one. It's been a while since my last Armor Warfare video, about 7 months to be exact, which was my M1A1 tank review. An info card should be appearing on the screen right about now, so go watch that video after you finish watching this one, of course. The reason for that is, ever since the Obsidian was fired as the main developers for this game, Armor Warfare has been in a perpetual limbo, so to speak, awaiting Balance 2.0, and even before that, I had a feeling that the game was dying a slow death with the population at an all-time low. So because of that, I don't know, I didn't feel like playing the game. It didn't draw me in for some reason. And you know, playing a game if you don't enjoy it, there's no point, you know. But anyway, all that being said, I really am excited for this new patch, with the hope going forward that it's the change that breathes new life into this game. So yeah, this patch is absolutely massive, so I'll just be going over the major changes, you know, broad strokes. But of course, if you wish to see a full list of changes, feel free to read the relevant post on their official website. Links in the description below. And a good place to start would be the ammunition changes, because you know, this game is about shooting stuff after all. So, as you can see, ammo damage no longer magically scales with level, but is instead determined by gun caliber, muzzle energy, shell weight, and the material it's made of. As an example, if you're a World of Tanks player, the German Long 88 has the same penetration and damage if you're using it on the tier 7 Tiger tank as it does if you're using it, for example, on the E75 at tier 9. Also, fairly important change, vehicles can now only enter battle with 3 types of ammunition, which means if your vehicle has more than 3 types, you'll have to pick and choose the ammo types you want to go into battle with. So, for example, pre-Balance 2.0 T90, tanks like T90, T90 MS, which had, I think, 5 ammunition types. Let's see, AP, heat, high explosive, ATGMs, and thermobaric ATGMs. So yeah, 5 ammo types. You could go into battle with all of these ammo types. That is no longer possible. Alrighty then, so let's start with AP and all its subvariants. So as you can see, armor piercing gets a 20% damage bonus when penetrating armor thicker than 100 millimeters. It has the best accuracy of all of the ammunition types. It has the best accuracy when firing on the move. It's not that affected by sloped angles, to a degree of course. It has the highest shell velocity. It doesn't care much about ERA or cage armor, and apparently AP now has less base penetration than heat. Speaking of heat, despite the fact that it has higher base penetration than armor piercing, it ironically gets a 20% damage bonus when penetrating armor thinner than 100 millimeters. Because, you know, game logic. It also gets a 25% damage bonus to the chance to start the fire, and 25% module damage. Downside, of course, is still the bane of heat and ATGMs, ERA and cage armor. Also, something called the super sloping mechanism, which says that if heat impacts at an angle of 60 degrees, the armor thickness goes up by 270%. In simple terms, I think it means just avoid sloped armor, you know? Just simple. Yeah. Alrighty then, let's move on to HESH, High Explosive Squash Head, which now gets a 20 to 25% damage bonus when penetrating armor thinner then half the gun caliber. So take for example the tier 7 Challenger 1, which has a gun caliber of 120 millimeters. In order to get that 20-25% damage bonus, you will need to shoot that armor thinner than 60 millimeters. So basically 59 millimeters or less. Hesh also gets a massive, I like how they use the word massive bonus to module damage and massive bonus to chance to start the fire. And it also retains some of its pre-balance 2.0 advantages, most notably that it ignores armor angles when calculating armor thickness. And as before, just avoid shooting Hesh at cage armor, ERA, and space timer. Which brings us neatly to high explosive, which gets a monster 40% damage bonus for full penetrations. But you know, good luck getting a full penetration. It gets a 25% chance to start the fire, or 50% bonus chance if the fuel tanks are already damaged. And let's not forget the simple fact that, you know, it doesn't need to actually penetrate to do some damage. That being said, however, if it impacts armor of 100 millimeters or thicker, it will deal little to no damage. In fact, if it impacts armor around 50 millimeters of thickness, it will do half damage. So in other words, only shoot high explosive at very thinly armored vehicles. The vehicles like, for example, the Weasel. And you know, I was about to say artillery, but that's no longer the case, and we'll get into that later in the video. Which I think is a good point to transition into the ammo type, which has the highest base penetration in the game. Anti-tank guided missiles, which get the same bonuses as heat, 20% damage bonus, 25% damage to chance to start a fire, then 25% bonus to module damage. Its obvious advantages over heat are the fact that it's guided and their ridiculously high penetration. That being said though, it has the same disadvantages as heat. It tends to go when it hits ERA or cage armor. It also gets vanquished by active protection systems, and it's affected by that pesky super sloping mechanism. And that's all the ammo types. The interesting changes, if you ask me. And you know, now that we've talked about the ammunition, I think it's a good place to start talking about armor changes. Yes, indeedy. Armor changes. I'm not sure I like what they did with armor. So for the TLDR of you out there, what they did is they made armor values more in line with their real life measurements. It's now much, with a capital M, much easier to track enemy vehicles than it was before, trust me on that. Also, driver hatches are no longer a thing, apparently. Turret hatches and unmanned turrets now take 90% less damage from armor piercing and about 65% less damage from heat and high explosive rounds. It is also easier to penetrate gun mantlets and turret rings, which are apparently real life weak points, as well as lower glaciuses. And I love this line. Check this out. So the specifics of these weak points will vary from vehicle to vehicle and are something to be learned and mastered by gaining experience with testing them in matches. So if you don't understand what that means, what they're saying basically is, you know how World of Tanky Tanks has websites like tank.gg which show you real live armor values models with everything you would want to know about armor thickness and whatnot. Well, we're not gonna do that because we're armored warfares. We want you to go into battle. We want you to click that battle button, yeah? And I don't know why I'm using the German accent. So I want you to click that battle button. You know, that PvP button. You go into battle, and when you see an enemy, the main battle tank, for example, you stop your tank and you politely type in chat, would you mind if you let me shoot your you know, driver hatch so I can see if it's still a weak point or not? What? What are you doing? Okay. I almost said Obsidian there. You know, force of habit, I guess. Mail.ru or my.com, whoever is handling the development right now, please, for the love of God, give us a website, something which we can use to see armor values in real time, or even, dare I say it, something like War Thunder has, an in-game, in-garage, not the X-ray system. It's basically a tanks.gg implemented into the game client, so you can at least see what you have to work with. It's bizarre, their decision to. You don't even have that armor panel on the vehicle stats anymore. You don't even have that, which was bare bones to begin with. Now, when the only way to see the armor of a vehicle, you click on details and you see, oh, this tank has 700 millimeters of turret armor. Or does it? You have no idea because there's no way to check. I don't know. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. And for some, and for a company that wants to make this game as similar to World of Tanks as possible, a change like this just, I don't know. Right. So that's more or less the changes to armor. Not liking it one bit. And now I think it's time to go into the retrofit system, which was heavily changed, and I think not necessarily for the better. Yeah, so I was not too pleased to see what they've done with the retrofits. There used to be a huge range of retrofits for your tanks in Armor Warfare. Not so much anymore. Now it's very much like in World of Tanks. You know, I'm starting to see a pattern emerging here. Just as an example, you know how you're setting up your heavy tank or your medium tank in World of Tanks? It's gun rammer, vertical stabilizer, and a choice of either coated optics or vents. You know, there's a huge range of equipment choices in World of Tanks, but all you put on them is rammer, stabilizer, and optics or vents, and that's it. Armor Warfare is now pretty much like that. The choice of retrofits that you can fit to your tank is now very limited, and that's why they had to refund all of the retrofits that you had fitted to your tanks, because now it's pretty much just a straightforward no-brainer choice in Armor Warfare, exactly the same way that it pretty much is in World of Tanks. They've dumbed it down pretty hard. So there's the point that there's a minimal thought required in which type of retrofits you fit to your tank in Armor Warfare. In exactly the same way, there's minimal thought required in which equipment you fit to your tanks in World of Tanks. And in the same fashion as World of Tanks, retrofits now have a universal credit cost. Let's take, for example, the Advanced Laser Warning Receiver Technology retrofit. It costs 3 million credits, whether you fit it to a tier 1 tank or to a tier 10 tank. And yes, you can now fit even tier 1 tanks with the retrofits, and all tanks come with a maximum slot of 3 retrofit slots, all universal, by the way. Surprise, surprise! just like in World of Tanky Tanks. With the exception of tier 9 and 10 tanks, which have the option of researching a 4th universal retrofit slot, but yes, every other tank comes with 3 slots, just like in World of Tanks. So yeah, that's pretty much what they did with the retrofit system. Not happy about it, not happy at all. Next on the agenda, another significant change, and I'd like to say it was an interesting and in-depth change, but alas, all they've done is copy-paste the World of Tanks camo mechanics, including but not limited to the 15-meter bush rule and double bushing. For those of you who don't play World of Tanks, it's simple. You stay 15 meters behind the bush, you have 30% camo. You stay behind 2 bushes, you have 60% camo, and that's it. Also, light tanks will now no longer lose any of their camo rating while moving, just like in World of Tanks. Just like in World of Tanks. You know, my mouth is actually getting tired of saying those words. Ugh. Also, the time it takes for a vehicle to regain its camo rating has gone down to 5 seconds from 7 seconds. And now vehicles will fade out after 5 seconds down from 8 seconds. And if you don't know what that means, basically after a tank regains its camo rating or drives away out of view range, it loses its red outline. However, you can still see its silhouette. So that process is going to take less time to happen. And now armor fighting vehicles will get a 30-meter bonus view range while standing still. For you World of Tanks players out there, think of this as a sort of built-in binocular telescope. And that's really all they did with the camo system, and I can't really talk about the camo without talking about the smoke launcher mechanics. So, I actually think that the smoke launcher changes will indeed promote more dynamic gameplay, as now players will have more opportunities to vanish, quote unquote, their tanks into thin air. And most importantly, all tanks will now have smoke launchers by default, whereas previously you actually had to research smoke launchers separately. Additionally, aside from your standard frontal cone smoke launchers, there are some vehicles that now possess what they're calling engine smoke, which instead of firing canisters in a frontal cone, what it does, it shrouds the vehicle in a small circular smoke cloud, which sounds really cool, and it actually is. So all around a good change, and one that does not directly relate to World of Tanks. Finally, am I right? Am I right? Right. Moving on to PvP and PvE changes. Well, really the only significant change they've made to PvP is the skirmish mode, which is a simple change but a very welcome one. Basically all it entails is that if the matchmaking can't create a balanced 15 versus 15 team, it will instead try to go for 5 versus 5 or even 3 versus 3. This change is for those people who like or can only play late at night or early in the morning. However, there is a catch. Skirmish mode will only be available on 4 maps: Pole Strike, Cerberus, Reactor, and Pipelines. So, you know, if you're one of those night owls hitting that random battle button at 3 AM in the morning, take a moment to thank you know, I almost said Obsidian again. Right. Take a moment to thank the developers of the game for coming up with this ultimately small but clever change to the Armor Warspare's matchmaking. Over in PvE, things are getting interesting, for lack of a better word. The most significant change to PvE is that it's the only game mode which allows for player-driven artillery. Furthermore, they've also completely removed AI artillery, but I'll talk more in depth about that in a moment. Other changes include no more AFV bosses. PvE hard mode is now available to all tiers, an excellent change if you ask me. All AI versions of tanks are now almost as resilient as player-driven vehicles, which will make for more challenging co-op matches. I'm sure you'll agree. And all tanks that have autocannons will now switch to ATGNs when needed. Oh, you know, when previously you encountered an AI AFV with autocannons, it would just sit there in front of you, spamming its little pop guns harmlessly on your frontal armor. Well, no more. Now they will just sit there in front of you, spamming missiles, which actually tend to penetrate rather than just scratch the paint. And finally, moving on to vehicle, tech tree, and progression changes. Alright, so before I get into the tech tree changes, progression changes, and the new tanks they've added, I want to talk about one of the biggest changes they made to Armor Warfare Dispatch, and it has to do with artillery. And this might be very popular with the World of Tanks players. They've effectively removed artillery from the game. I mean, it's still there, but you can only play it in PvE battles against the AI. There's no more artillery in PvP, and even in PvE there will never be any more AI artillery, so nobody who plays Armor Warfare is ever gonna have to worry about getting hit by artillery, unless you're in a PvE battle and you get hit by your own teammate by accident. But let's be honest, that hardly counts. But yes, you never have to worry about getting hit by enemy artillery, because there isn't any enemy artillery, and I can't help but feel this change is a very cynical attempt on behalf of my.com to entice World of Tanks players into playing Armor Warfare, because let's face it, what's the number one thing people hate in World of Tanks? Well, aside from terrible players, it's artillery. You know, it's disappointing, because the way artillery worked in Armor Warfare, I actually liked, because artillery had a counter in Armor Warfare. The way that there is no counter to artillery in World of Tanks, and the counter to artillery in Armor Warfare was other artillery players, because you know, every time you fired your gun, every enemy artillery player got a ping on their minimap revealing your location, so you could be counter batteried. You had to use your smoke grenades, you had to move after you fired, and so on and so forth. Otherwise you would get wiped out by enemy artillery. And with artillery going after each other, playing that mini game of whack-a-mole on the minimap, it meant that the tanks didn't have to worry too much about getting hit by artillery until one of the teams had successfully neutralized the other team's artillery. So you know, I like that, but unfortunately it's a thing of the past now. You don't even have to do that in any of the PvE battles, because as I've said, there's no longer any AI artillery either. So yeah, it's a very cold and calculated move by my.com, and despite the fact that many people, including myself, don't like it, it might actually be a good thing for the game, because if there's any one thing that would guarantee to entice World of Tanks players away from World of Tanks, it's a game that's a lot like World of Tanks but does not have any artillery. And that's pretty much exactly what they've done. And if you thought because you can only play artillery in PvE battles that they might cost less credits or, you know, less reputation to research, you will be sorely disappointed. So for example, if you want to get the new tier 10 artillery piece, the Centauro 155, which previously at the very beginning of the beta testing was a tank destroyer, now it's a artillery piece. You'll have to pay the full 22 million plus credits as you would for any other tier 10 vehicle. So it's kind of I don't know, a more honest response would have been to remove artillery altogether, entirely from the game. I don't know why. Anyway, that's my 2 cents about the thing. All right, I think I've talked enough about artillery, and like I said, it might actually be a good change for the game. Who knows? I guess only time will tell. Moving on swiftly to other vehicle changes. Now I know one of the headlines of this patch is 26 new vehicles, but in actual fact maybe a quarter of that number are actually new vehicles, the rest being renamed or modernized versions of existing vehicles. And if you were standing there rubbing your hands with glee hoping for entirely new dealers, you are, as they say, out of luck. That being said, here's the list of the new progression vehicles. Centauro 155, BMD 1P, BMD 2M, BMP 3M 125 Dragoon, FV 101 Scorpion 90, FV 107 Scimitar, Chieftain 900, Chieftain Mark II, Leopard 2A4 Evolution, which if you look at it is for players who remember the old Leopard 2 actually had the evolution armor as a research module, which basically almost turned it into a Leopard 2A5. M108, M113 ACAV, M182 SEP version 3, M48A3, M60A1, OT65A, T55, T64A model 1976, T72B, T80B, T80U, T90A, T92, Type 62, Type 69, VBL TOW, and Weasel 1 Hot, because it's hot. Hot, hot, hot. Also, they are removing two vehicles from the game, M113, the Tier 1 AFV, AMX-10P, Tier 3 AFV. And I know it says here that the XM1, the Tier 6 main battle tank, is being removed, but in actual fact, it is being converted to a Tier 6 premium main battle tank. So if you had this tank in your garage at the moment of change, congratulations, now you have a free Tier 6 premium main battle tank. Hooray! There are also several vehicles that are changing tiers or even vehicle class. The Centauro 105 is going up a tier from 6 to 7. The Centauro 120 is going up 2 tiers from tier 7 to tier 9. The BMD 1 is going from tier 4 to tier 3. BMD 4 is going down a tier from 7 to 6. The Swingfire is going up 2 tiers from tier 4 to tier 6, and it is also changing from an AFV to a tank destroyer. The Warrior is going from tier 8 to tier 7. The Fox is going up a tier from 5 to 6. The LAV 600 is going down from tier 7 to tier 6. The M1 Abrams is going down a tier from 7 to 6. The M109 is going down a tier, is going up a tier from 4 to 5. The M1A1 Abrams is going down from tier 8 to tier 7. The M1A2 is going down from 9 to 8. The M2 Bradley is going up 2 tiers from tier 6 to tier 8, and it is being renamed to the M2A3 Bradley, because, you know, why not? The M41 Walker Bulldog is going down from tier 2 to tier 1. The M551 Sheridan is going up a tier from 4 to 5. The M60A2 Starship is going up a tier. The Palmaria is going up a tier. The Panzer Haubitze 2000 is going up a tier. T72 is going down a tier. The T72A is going down a tier. The T80 is going down 2 tiers. It's now actually at tier 5. The T90 is going down a tier from tier 8 to tier 7. The Type 69-2 is going down from tier 4 to tier 3 and is being renamed to Type 79 because reasons. The Type 80-2 is going down a tier from 5 to 4. The Type 85-2M is going down a tier. The Type 90-2 is going down a tier. The Type 98 is going down a tier. The VBL is going up a tier from 7 to 6 and is being renamed to VBL INGWE or Ingwe. Ingwe sounds like something African. And the Weasel one is going down 2 tiers from 7 to 5 and is being renamed to the Weasel Toe. Whew! That is quite a list of vehicle changes. Oh, okay. And whoa! That was a big list. And actually the list of changes goes on and on. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this is an overview, and if you wish to read the full list of changes from top to bottom, feel free to visit the post on their official website. Links in the description below. So, patch 0.19, tanks reloaded with the highly anticipated balance 2.0. Is it the fresh air the game sorely needed? Will it make you come back to the game if you're like me and took an extended break? If you're a World of Tanks player, have the recent changes incentivized you to come on and give it a try? Do you agree with the artillery changes? Let me know your opinions in the comment section below. I know what my opinion is. How about yours? So, well, with all of that being said, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, or maybe it was just useful to you. If it was, please consider leaving a like and also subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. Follow me on social media, links in the description below. My name is Mujex and I will see you next time.